welcome students to another series on digital marketing. In today's session, we would learn about digital marketing refinement phase. However, before we begin with a detailed discussion, let us go through a quick recall of what we discussed in the previous session. So, the last session in the series of digital marketing was devoted on communication and operation strategy. Within the communication strategy, we discussed how in today's time digital marketing has enabled the firms to go for mass customized communication. We also delved into how one can develop a communication strategy, look at various decision making areas with respect to message strategy, and choose various communication tools across the digital channels to communicate with the target audience. In the next phase, which was the operational setup, we discussed about lead generation, lead nurturing and lead scoring. We also had an overview of the conversion across the three stages of consumer funnel, that is the top of the funnel, middle of the funnel and bottom of the funnel. And we also looked at how the conversion can subsequently move our traffic or audience from the web page to a firm's landing page. In today's session, I would be covering the last stage of the ASCOR framework of digital marketing. The last stage is refinement. So, we have already looked into the assessment, strategy, communication, channel and operations, and today we would be talking about the refinement phase. What particularly we would be learning in the refinement phase is how one can make use of web analytics while you are implementing your digital marketing framework and digital marketing strategies, how web analytics and the various metrics that are available within would help a firm in evaluating and refining the digital marketing strategy in accordance with the performance and the goals. We would also look at how one firm needs to have an overview of its marketing implementation in terms of the return on investment. And lastly, how the refinement and the evaluation process and subsequent modification in the digital marketing strategies would be taken care of. Now, before we begin, let us understand, students, what is web analytics and the extent to which web analytics can be used to refine our digital marketing strategies. So, one can very easily understand web analytics as a tool which helps you to evaluate the website's performance by collecting and analyzing the data, and this data specifically relates to the web traffic and the usage patterns. Now, when I am as a firm including web analytics in my refinement phase, I will be assessing and evaluating various types of data. Now, these data, students, can be in the form of the traffic data. That is the data which my server is going to give in the form of my log files, in the form of my page tags. It can be also my transactional data, that is what kind of transactions the business has carried out in a stipulated period of time. There can be some server performance data which can be available, and that data largely relates to the characteristics of my usage, the characteristics of the user's web page use and the like elements. There can be certain usability studies where I would be looking at the data which I would be procuring with respect to the visitors' use of the website and the way in which they interact on it. Once I have all this information which I can collate through various online forms or through various kind of online surveys, this can be put together and can be analyzed using various web analytic tools. Now, when I talk about tools or the matrix, what kind of matrix or measurement variables am I looking at? So students, I can compartmentalize my web metrics into 7 broad categories. There could be some visit related metrics, as we have seen how many people are visiting my website, how many people are visiting my web page. It can be visitor related, which would relate to the characteristics of the visitor, the frequency of visit of the visitor, their usage profile and their usage pattern. It could be page related, how many page landings do I get, how many how many visitors landed up on my web page or a particular firm's web page, the duration, the extent of the duration or the time, how long they would be staying on my website and my web page. So that is the time related metrics. To the extent to which they are able to stay on my web page or my website would also indicate the extent to which that particular site or the page is able to engage them properly. So there are some engagement related metrics. Conversion related metrics, what is the possibility that after visiting the website and the web page, they would also buy something or ask something. So to what extent I have been able to convert my visitor into a buyer. And then exit related, how many of them exited the website or the page without going through it or without seeking more information. So there could be the lack of engagement, or there could be something else which was missing as a information on my page or the website, which could not hold the buyer or the the visitor for a longer period of time. So these metrics eventually help me to understand my data and the related aspects. In recent times, because we have been talking about Web 2.0, there is a more refined version of web analytics in the form of Web Analytics 2.0. Now, how this is different from a simple web analytics where I am gathering lot of data and I am churning that data and analyzing that data, and the data is in the form which we have just now discussed in the terms of the key matrix. Now, in case of Web Analytics 2.0, you are analyzing the data both from the quantitative as well as the qualitative perspective. So, it is the analysis of qualitative as well as quantitative data which you procure from a firm's website. Along with it, you also have the data from the competition, and you analyze this data to bring about continuous changes and improvements so that the customers are going to have a desired outcome, and they are going to exhibit a desired outcome in the form of purchase, in the form of satisfaction, in the form of word of mouth, in the form of share or wallet, both online and offline, that they would be experiencing and they would be sharing with respect to that particular brand or a firm. So when we are measuring the outcomes, it means that we are trying to connect our desired outcome with the consumer behavior, so that we know to what extent the digital strategy is working in favor of the firm or the brand. It may also include students running some sort of experiments on the site, on the website, where you can make use of different advanced testing tools in order to realize the features which may work better or may turn out to be best in a particular set of circumstances. Now, in addition to what you do through your web tools and you do with your data that you procure through your measurement matrix, you can also as a firm obtain direct feedback from the consumers. You can make use of digital forms, online surveys, or usable testing methods. You can also make use of certain other techniques and cards in order to get that feedback and implement that feedback to turn out your strategies which probably would be more effective in future. Finally, a firm can also use lot of information from direct as well as indirect competition. So you can gather information and not only gather that information but also compare that information which you get from the competitors to measure the extent to which you are doing better or worse against the competing firms. And this tracking and this comparison will ultimately help you as a firm to identify the possible areas which need improvement, may be able to help you in tracking new opportunities where you can grow in future, and you can carry out some modification in your present processes to deliver better. Now, when you talk about web analytics 2.0 and we are looking at both quantitative as well as qualitative metrics, let us look at what can be the possible measurement or key indicators when it comes to quantitative and qualitative. So, when it comes to quantitative, one can largely look at two possible metrics. One is the count. Now, by count we mean either the number or the ratio of maybe the visitors. So, it is basically the number and the ratio of a metric. Now, if the metric is visit, so it is the number of times it was visited or the number of visits. If I am talking about visitor as a metric, then it becomes the number of visitors who are going to visit the firm's website, right. So, depending on the metric that I am using, I would be calculating the number or the ratio in terms of getting my count. The second variable, the measurement variable which one can use in case of quantitative indicator is that you measure the overall value, which is largely in terms of the return on investment, and we will look at this return on investment in a broader detail in a short while. When it comes to qualitative, again, because you are assessing the qualitative or maybe subjective parameters which cannot be converted or do not have a feasibility of actually being converted into a numeric data, you are assessing the parameters such as the relevance, such as the quality of the website, such as the quality of the information which is embedded over there, or maybe the engagement value which the consumer is going to derive by staying on the website. So, to what extent the consumer is feeling involved, and that also becomes the qualitative metric. The second broader metric which is available in case of qualitative indicator is that you measure the connect. What do you mean by connect? The extent to which you are able to connect well with the marketing objectives. So, if your marketing objective is to drive action, do you see any sort of conversion which is happening? So, then what is the connect of conversion metrics to your marketing objectives becomes my connect. So, just like in case of your offline marketing efforts, you keep track in terms of how well your efforts are resulting in terms of accomplishment of your marketing goals. Similarly, in the online platform or in the digital landscape, the connect is going to give you the relationship or the association that is happening between the key indicators and the larger marketing objectives because of which you have undertaken your digital marketing strategies. Now, this completes the first step of the refinement phase, which is that you are going to analyze the various metrics and indicators, the performance indicators, and you are going to make use of analytics in order to collate the data and analyze the data. Now, once it is there, the second part, as I just said in the quantitative metrics, it was related to the ROI. Right. So, now let us look at what is the marketing implementation ROI. When you implement your digital marketing strategies, what kind of ROI calculation one has to come up with? To what extent any digital marketing firm would get to know as to whether or not it is having a good return on investment. So the expenses that a firm is putting in its expenditure side, and the revenue that it is getting from its digital marketing efforts, when you compare the two, what kind of return are we getting after putting in the digital marketing efforts? So in a way, we can say that the implementation stage, after the implementation stage, or within, during the process, I would be interested as a digital marketing firm in determining my final return on investment. And this return of investment is an aggregated return on investment. Students, this is a total return that I am going to get from all the digital marketing activities that the firm has put in from start to finish. Right? Now, the overall return can also be calculated for each stage of the funnel separately. Now, why and when you would be doing it? Students, usually the digital marketing firms calculate the return on investment for each of the funnel stages, that is for the top, middle and bottom of the consumer funnel, because you would want to know for which particular segment of consumers the firm is garnering maximum return on investment, so that in the subsequent stages you can focus on that group of consumers who are providing more contribution to your investment, they are contributing more to your return on investments, right? So for the future perspective, you cannot pay equal attention to all the consumers. So your further targeting strategies are based on the fact as to how students are reciprocating and how they are retaliating, how they are responding to your digital marketing efforts in each stage of the funnel, that is in the consumer's purchase journey. Now, the larger purpose of calculating the ROI is to assess the extent to which the firm is able to generate actual tangible results, and these results are mostly in the form of sales. So obviously, this is the last tangible outcome. There are some intangible outcomes as we have seen in the qualitative metrics, but finally, if you act, what kind of tangible outcome is happening or is getting generated for the company, that is always going to remain the sales. So the firm is able to assess the extent to which the returns and this whole exercise of carrying out the digital marketing strategies is able to provide good sales to the firm and track the extent to which it is going to effectively create an impact for the firm as a whole in terms of its growth, in terms of its expansion, in terms of its visibility, and the relatable metrics that it would have assigned for its own self given the broader marketing goals and given the broader organizational goals. Now, as I said that when I am going to look at my return on investment, I have to calculate two different things. I have to look at the expenditure side and I have to look at the revenue side, and it is only when I am going to deduct my expenses from my revenue I am going to get the profit, right? Now, what all can be under the expenditure head? So what can be the key expenditure areas? One, the expense that any digital marketing firm would be spending on its channels, right? These can be the own channels, paid channels, referrals. The cost which a digital marketing firm is ultimately incurring in the use and procurement of various tools. There can be some analytics, there can be some automation, there can be some research. So all costs that are involved in carrying out and using those online tools would also be a part of expenditure. It would be an expense. Again, the expense which the firm is paying towards the resources, it could be the in-house resources like employees of the firm or some contractual resources or some hired people. So the salaries that you pay to them, the work man hours that they are putting in, that also becomes the expense for a firm. And lastly, the cost of goods sold that you would be calculating for each of these heads. So this is by and large the expense that a digital marketing firm would be undertaking. Now when you have a total of the expense, one would be equally interested in knowing the revenue. So how much addition to the revenue has been generated by a firm through its digital marketing activities, and that is the entire set, the entire basket of its digital marketing activities. Now, how would you compute this revenue? This will be the number of customers who come to your site, or the number of customers that you are able to convert through your digital marketing efforts, and the sale that you are able to make to each customer. So, number of customers, when you multiply it with the sales that you make to each customer, gives you the revenue. Now, when you are going to deduct your expense head, the total expenditure that you have calculated from the total revenue that you have received, you are going to get your net profit. That is going to by and large give you an assessment of how much profit you are making from the sales when you deduct your investments from it. So in a way, we can say that the overall marketing return on investment is nothing but a percentage of return. And what is that percentage? That you have your net profit or a total investment that you make once you deduct your expenditure from the revenue. Now, you have everything in place. You have, as a digital firm, by now, you have the data with you that you have procured with respect to your own organization in form of different metrics that we have discussed so far. You have the data from the direct competitors and the indirect competitors. You have the calculation related to the expenditure that the firm has made up till now on all its digital marketing activities. You have the figure for your revenue and also your return on investment. So all in all, you know what all you have done, and therefore now as a next step, one has to carry out the refinement or modification if the firm feels that the return is not up to the mark. So students, in the subsequent session, we will know more about it.